Hello, everybody. Welcome to the television edition of Matt Connerton Unleashed. Very happy to have you all with us today or tonight, whenever you're watching the show. Of course, we're live on Wednesdays and then replays a bunch of times in the evening. And I've been getting a lot of feedback lately that a lot of people are watching the replays because a lot of people are at work at 2 o'clock on a Wednesday. But regardless, very, very glad to have you with us, whether you're watching us on MPTS or on IPMNation.com. And we do have with us now one of the gentlemen, maybe a familiar face to some of you, if you also watch Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades, because he's been on Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades quite a few times, Mr. Gus Breton.
Hey, Matt.
And Gus, I think of you as kind of the John Goodman of Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades, and John Heichel actually as the Alec Baldwin, because, you know, it's kind of the SNL thing. You know, Alec Baldwin has been on SNL more times than anybody, and I think John Goodman's number two. So, and of course, we were talking off air before the show started. I couldn't remember if you'd ever, because I get the shows mixed up. I've had so many guests. I couldn't remember if you'd been on this show before, and this is your first time on this show specifically.
Yes,
so,
it is.
So welcome.
Thank you.
And Gus brought with him a great guest who I'm really interested to talk to. Has a very interesting story. Karl Lentz. How are you, Karl?
Oh, it's doing fine.
Welcome to the. Actually, you can pull that mic right up front if you want to pull it to the edge. I just want to make sure everybody can hear you.
Yeah, it's called Lentz.
Oh, Lentz, plural.
Yeah, L-E-N-T-Z.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, and I think Buck Henry was the most guest on SNL ever.
Buck Henry?
Buck Henry. But you could Google it, see if I'm wrong.
Okay.
That's in the 70s. You might not be that old.
Did he? I know who he is. I can almost sort of picture him.
Little guy, glasses.
Yeah,
He always played like a child molester on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's funny.
Oh, okay.
He's a good guy. Good guy. Buck Henry.
Well, Karl, now I don't know too much about your story. I talked to John Heichel earlier, the most honorable John Heichel, and he kind of told me a little bit. But what I'd like to do is kind of let you tell your story, and you know, if I have and I'm sure I will, Gus and I probably both will have plenty of questions, and we can kind of interrupt along the way. But John did tell me about you know, you were in a situation where you had to get one of your kids back, and you and something to do with common law. You kind of went about it a different way than most folks do, and but I really don't know too much. So why don't you kind of just start at the beginning, or?
All right, I guess I'll do the beginning real quick.
Sure.
My child was born in 2001. He had Downs. Well, he has Downs. It's,
okay.
You know, doesn't go away with a penicillin shot.
Sure.
And the government wanted me to sign all kinds of, you know, forms, Medicaid forms, Social Security forms, to get him financial aid.
Sure.
Pay us to, you know, take care of him and everything. I said, we don't require anything of the government, and when we need your assistance, we'll let you know. And they were like,
Okay. So just to be clear, were they insisting that you fill this stuff out even if you didn't need their help? Or?
Yeah, well, it was. He only weighed 2 pounds 9 ounces, and they knew it was going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical bills for the state of Alabama, for the University of Alabama he was born in. So they wanted to make sure they were going to get their bills paid.
Gotcha.
And the feds would kick back and cover them.
Okay.
I said, look, you just tender me the bill, and I'll handle the bill.
Yeah.
So I got this. I don't require anything of the government to handle my bills. And they said, how are you going to pay for it? How much money you make? And I said, it's really none of your business. I said, you just give me the bill when it's day of discharge, and I'll make sure it's covered.
We all know the government doesn't like to be told it's none of their business.
Well, it's not so much it is. It's wanted to make sure they're going to get paid. Basically,
Right.
They said, look, if you ain't got the money, don't worry about it. The feds will cover everything, every single thing. He's disabled, Disability Act. He'll be covered for the rest of his life. They'll even slide you a check. It's like, I don't require anything from my government, but I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I said, when I need help, I'll let you know. I'll take care of family. Will come first, and my community will help me. Folks got a Jehovah's Witness church on their property. It's full of Mennonites where I live in Virginia. We got this covered.
Yeah.
So just in case, you know, we need the government's benefits, thank you. But at this time, we don't require such assistance.
Sure.
So they said to us, well, if you don't sign this paperwork, you know, the child won't be discharged to you. I said, are you know, threatening me? And they said, well, we have to make sure the child is going to be provided for. I said, ma'am, when the day the doctor discharged that child from the hospital, we will pick it up and we will go home.
Right.
They said, not if you don't sign this paperwork. I said, oh, really? I said, so you're trying to tell me that you're going to take my property, you know, without my consent? And they were like, property? And it was like, I said, social workers, they're young girls, you know, probably got associate's degrees, you know. A nice black lady, nice white lady. And they said, oh, property? You just call your child property. I said, of course he's property. What else would I define him as?
Right.
And I said, hey, the mother of the child was at the end of the table. Say, hey, woman, am I you're my property? She said, absolutely. And we were like, I said to the woman, I said, am I on your property? She said, you're damn right you are.
Yeah.
I said, women, what's property? And I said, well, property is like what? I said, no, slave is not property. Slave would be like a tangible asset. I said, property is that which is proper to a man and woman who's could use and is exclusive to all others within a society.
Sure.
Now, we have an agreement that she's exclusive to me, and I have an agreement with her that I'm exclusive to her. And she can enjoy me, and nobody else within society has that right to do so. Same thing with that child in that other room.
Right.
He is my property and her property. Nobody else is allowed to use it or enjoy it within a society. Are you making a claim that you have a vested interest in that property? Did you put any money into it before, that you could claim it as yours? And they were like, we have no idea what you're talking about, but
Right. I was going to say, I assume this is the first time they had ever been presented with.
Oh yeah, because I was
these
doing
questions.
fiber optics and satellites there. I was running around the country doing military bases.
Yeah.
So I had all kinds of security clearances. I knew exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So it was very simple what I was doing with these poor women, and I just realized they had no clue. I said, are you here in a government capacity? Are you here in official capacity? She said, yes. Are you making an offer to me? And they were like, yes. I said, do you understand under the Medicaid and Social Security Act, that's illegal under 472 and 672. My mom was a federal agent for almost 30 years.
Oh, okay.
I said, so you realize under 472 or 672 in the Medicaid Act, subsection F, the government cannot propose an offer to take a child from a family. We have to come to you. You can't knock on our door and say, we got a great benefit, we'd like to take your kid, and this is what we'll give you.
Interesting.
I said, you can't do that, ma'am. I said, it's illegal. We have to come to you. And people don't understand this. When you sign I'd say 99% of the kids that are taken by a consent decree based upon safety plan, they call them in most states. And I found a code for folks. It's on the website. And it says that the parents wish at any time to rescind the contract with the state, the children will be placed back with the parents immediately.
Okay.
And nobody in the state is supposed to tender this safety plan without any trepidations or any fear of returning the children back to the parents immediately. If you're afraid to turn the children back to the parents immediately, proceed with criminal charges.
Is that federal law or is that state law within?
It's the
states
one
that have
the
that?
one I found was in Alabama. It was under the foster care placement under the 660 Title Act for placement for foster care.
Okay.
And I don't know the exact one. I know it's 660 code, and I put it on the website where it clearly says, do not offer parents a placement agreement, a consent decree, or a safety plan option if there's any hesitation with returning the children back to the parents immediately. For if the parents wish the restoration of their property, it must commence immediately.
Matt, we've talked a lot about this kind of stuff. Federal funding usually supports these kinds of laws, so chances are this is a uniform code which would apply to all the states because they all get the
Okay.
federal funding. So I'd be willing to bet we've got a similar thing here.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah.
Well, on my radio show, I do a radio show on Saturday night, and there's a 43-minute clip I took out in September. And there was a lady, nice Mexican lady. She was 28 years old. She was driving down the road with her brother in a pickup truck. Her baby fell out of the car seat because she was drunk. She
Yeah.
got arrested, and they pulled over to the side of the road. They pulled in the police department. The brother said, get her out of my car and take her kid with you. So obviously they wanted all kinds of AA classes for the lady. She still had criminal charges of fighting with the police and the public. And all she had to do was, I said to the lady, thank God she really didn't know anything about law. So I said, just 2 sentences, you need to bring it to the court. It says, I require the immediate restoration of my property, and I require you to restore property immediately. So funny, you listening to my show, her husband calls in, and this is the second couple I helped. The people I just came from in Canada, where was I?
St. John's, New Brunswick.
But it was past there a little bit.
Oh,
Springs.
Hampton.
Salt Springs, I think it was Salt Springs.
Okay.
Hampton area, right. So I just came back from a couple that I helped get their kids back, so their kids call me Uncle Carl now and all this stuff with 2 sentences. 2 sentences.
Yeah.
That's all it takes. And that's exactly how it worked with this lady as well. So it was funny that in New Mexico, the Attorney General for the state said, oh, this is the lady's whole defense. Ha, ha, ha. I require the restoration of property. Ours are all the property. See Exhibit A. Don't give the kid's name. Just say Exhibit A, put a picture.
Okay.
I said, I order the immediate restoration of property. And I'm going to charge $1 a second for every second that you hold the property, in naked possession. So it comes out to $80,400 a day. So what was funny is the judge said to her, do you understand the seriousness of why we took the child is in state custody? It's like, yeah, drunk, like whatever. He said, don't you want to do what's in the best interest of your child? She says, look, I want the restoration of my property, and I want it now. Mm-hmm. So the state said, yeah, look at this silly defense. And the state read it onto the record. And then the judge asked the lady, are you going to charge us $1 a second? She said, absolutely. And the judge looked at the attorney general, said, restore her property immediately.
No kidding.
No kidding. The husband's on you listen to my show, it's only 43 minutes. I cut that little segment out.
Yeah.
And it says, in the AGO, the attorney general's office said, sir, are you serious? He says, you know the law, restore property. It was the only, since civilization began, governments were created to secure and protect the property of man. That's all they do. That's mission statement 1. So I don't care if you're on Gilligan's Island. I don't care if we're in woods somewhere. We're going to assign certain duties to people, and people are going to subscribe to, say, we're going to agree to do certain things, certain roles. And all we basically getting together for is to protect and secure each other's property from a hostile invader.
Sure.
That's all we do. That's all governments do. So the judges know this. So if you say, I require you to restore my property, immediately he has no choice because you made a claim for your property.
Now, do you know of anyone ever doing this where it didn't work?
Well, what was funny, let me finish up with that lady.
Oh, sure.
The husband came on and said, and serenity was restored. And I said, I don't care about peace, tranquility, or serenity. I want to know where the hell the kid is.
Right.
And she said, well, serenity was restored. I said, sir, I ain't got time for this. I do a radio show. Can you please tell me what happened to the kid? He says, I said, serenity's her name. You couldn't name her Maria or Mary? I said, no. He's like, oh, your kid's back? Great. Next caller.
Right.
So like I said, this stuff is so routine for me. It's just like, yep, okay, great. Next caller.
Yeah.
But to other people, like, wow, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing what? You just require your property, the restoration to commence immediately. What's the big deal?
Yep.
It's not rocket science. This stuff's so simple, it's scary.
Right. But some people are going to hear this and say, well, it sounds so simple.
Yeah.
You know, it almost sounds too good to be true. Do you know of anyone using this where
I don't know.
it
Like I
hasn't-
said, it
where
was
it
funny.
hasn't worked?
I do a radio show, and it's a live mic. I have a farm in Virginia, so what's funny is I put my phone in my pocket and I walk around my farm. It's
Yeah.
a live mic, and people call me up all the time, and they ask me questions, and they come back the next week or two, and they say what worked or what didn't work. And
Okay.
that's how I got flown over to England to help some Punjabi man, because he was charged with, he told me he was charged with harassment, him and a couple other Punjabis. But when I got there and I sat in court, he was charged with harassment, communicating threats,
Paper terrorism.
terrorism, putting forged commercial paper into the public through a trust, and it was one more, stalking.
Okay.
So I said to them, when were you going to tell me this? They said, well, if we told you when you were in America, you probably wouldn't come over to help. I said, yeah, you're right. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks, people. So what was funny is, to me, it lasted 2.5, 3 hours, and I thought that was a massive amount of time. Most people say this stuff would last weeks. And I just said, they read out the charges, and I said, okay, everything the Crown said that they did was illegal. They're guilty as charged. But where's the wrong? This is still a common law nation, is it not? Is this not England? Yes, so where's the wrong? So the barrister put on a hell of a performance. You know, he had
Yeah.
a wig on, he had solicitors behind him. They put on a hell of a
You
show.
gotta love the wigs.
Oh, yeah, they put on a hell of a show. So it was so funny. For the first when the ruling came out around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the judge read a 45-minute ruling. And the first 42 minutes is like first charge, guilty,